Oh hey, hope y'all are having an absolutely fantastic day today. Thank you for clicking on today's video as we wrap up the 2022-2023 NFL season, as well as wrapping up these playoff videos, which again, thank you for all of the support. As we look forward to the last game of the season, it's the game of the games, the big game, the game where the whole entire world watches. Some for the funny Doritos commercials, but many for the actual game itself. To watch a great matchup between two of the best teams in the NFL go at it, and to see who's going to hoist up that Lombardi trophy in the air when the dust settles. Super Bowl 57. So, let's talk about it. For the NFC champions, they are soaring into this game with a ferocious defense, which all season has balled out, led by many faces on that D. The one that stands out the most for me, though, is Haason Reddick. Not only with his 16 regular season sacks, but also being a difference maker for the last two crucial playoff games, having 3.5 sacks total. Especially with last week's NFC title game against the San Francisco 49ers, when on the first drive for the San Francisco 49ers, Haason Reddick sacked and force fumbled Brock Purdy to force Brock out of the game with a torn UCL in his right throwing arm. He was out in the first half completely and tried coming back in after the fourth string quarterback Josh Johnson got injured from a tackle from Ndamukong Suh. But at the time, we didn't know what the injury was, so Purdy went out there and couldn't perform at all. He couldn't throw the ball unless it was a screen, so the 49ers offense mainly just ran the ball in different formations with different motions and try and throw off the Eagles defense, which wasn't having none of that. Running back Christian McCaffrey had a game with 15 carries for 84 yards and a 23-yard rushing touchdown in the second quarter to tie the game 7-7. The game did end with a score of 31-7, with the Eagles' offensive running attack running through any defender they saw for a second week in a row, with the ball being spread out evenly, with each runner having success again. Miles Sanders had 42 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Boston Scott also having a touchdown with 21 rushing yards. Kenneth Gainwell again leading the running back room with 48 rushing yards. And then lastly, the quarterback Jalen Hurts had 39 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown as well. The offensive play calling and the play of the offensive line has been amazing. The Eagles by far have the best offensive line in the league, and they've proven that time and time again this season, with all the pulls and down blocks moving the best defense in the league like they're nothing. With all the running the ball trying to finish the game, Jalen Hurts only threw 15 of 25 for 121 yards, which isn't the best insane stats, but what they were doing with running the ball, they didn't necessarily need to pass at all at the time. Even with that, Jalen still made some big plays to Devontae Smith, making a one-handed grab, along with Jaylen Brown also making big plays. The Eagles look really good coming into the Super Bowl with having an unstoppable defense and running game combo that can win them games unless Jalen Hurts gets nervous for being in his first Super Bowl ever. The AFC title game later that day was a whole different game, a different vibe in general. Many of the media was going crazy for both sides, praising the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow after a dominating win against the Bills the week prior. So the hype of this game was at a sky high with these two powerhouses that can both be dynasties with a massive win like this to move on to the Super Bowl. Kansas City played well with the Bengals staying in it throughout and ended with a wild nail-biter finish with the score being 23-20 at the end, ending with a 45-yard game-winning field goal from Harrison Butker. The Cincinnati Bengals did go through some struggles during the first half of the game, with not being able to score a single touchdown until later in the second half. A lot of that credit does go to the Kansas City Chiefs defense early in the ball game, with defensive linemen Chris Jones and Frank Clark getting a sack on 2 crucial third downs for the Cincinnati Bengals' only 2 drives in the first quarter, alongside with DB Jalen Watson making yet another big-time play this postseason with an interception in the second quarter. Joe Burrow was able to sort of fix things up more in the second half, ending the day with 26 completions for 270 passing yards and a touchdown along with 2 interceptions. Bengals' offensive line was sadly not able to play in the trenches like they did last week against the Buffalo Bills, with Joe Mixon only having 19 rushing yards off of 9 attempts, when last week he had a monster game, and Joe Burrow getting sacked 5 times in this game as well, involving one that basically sealed the Bengals' fate when defensive tackle Chris Jones finished off an insane playoff game with a big-time sack on 3rd down to force the Bengals to punt late in the game for the Chiefs to kick the game-winning field goal. The Bengals sadly finished their season with a lot of questions going into the offseason, with Joe Burrow's big-time contract and even more questions involving that Bengals offensive line. For the Chiefs, there was a lot of questioning and doubt circling around the media, rightfully so with the injury news on Patrick Mahomes when he did suffer a high ankle sprain in the middle of last week's game. Even with that, Patrick Mahomes was able to sling that pigskin all around the yard and looked so good doing so on offense, even with a bum ankle, lacking the ability to move around the pocket. Passing for a 67 completion percentage, 326 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns with a QBR of 105.6. Even with the lack of mobility, Patrick Mahomes was able to make key, precise passes to his receivers, like tight end Travis Kelce having 7 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown, or even wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling having a monster day as well with 6 receptions for 116 yards and a receiving touchdown as well. The Chiefs as a team on Sunday night not only proved why they're the best in the AFC, but I also believe Patty Mahomes also proved why he's the best quarterback in the league and will continue to do so. The only hiccup I see with the Chiefs is the amount of players that are on their injury report, with important pieces like Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, L'Jarius Sneed, and Willie Gay all injured from that AFC title game. With that being said, there's a lot of evidence and reasoning for either team to win the Super Bowl. For the Eagles, you have a great overall team with a scary unified defense led by an insane defensive line and Hassan Reddick, as well as that disgustingly good run game led by an even scarier offensive line unit. And then for the Kansas City Chiefs, you have the best quarterback leading the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL, along with a solid defense with players that can fly around the ball and get to the opposing quarterback. This game was probably one of the hardest games to choose from for me in the entire playoffs, just because of the 2 teams that are playing in it, to be honest. Even with all the players that are out for Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is still one of those lights-out players. It was such a tough choice choosing between this game, but how I honestly see this game playing out is very similar to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buccaneers Super Bowl, where Patrick Mahomes was running for his life against the pass rush and couldn't do anything on offense. Because I believe that defense over at Philly is something special, and that group of guys plays lights out football, as well as that offensive line is going to play so well on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line, protecting Jalen Hurts and creating those running lanes for all of the running backs that are going to be playing. And yes, I mean all the running backs that are going to be playing. The only way I can see the Chiefs winning, though, is with the lack of Super Bowl experience from Jalen Hurts in his career, because this will be his first Super Bowl ever in his professional career. Well, we made it to the end of it all. I appreciate all of you who have sat here and listened to me as we went through this journey to the NFL Super Bowl. Look out for new videos in the future involving the NFL offseason, but as well as the kickoff to a new season under the XFL. I hope y'all have a good day. Hope y'all enjoy the game this upcoming weekend, and have a good one.